calling them that. They just called them Indians. All right. But Luis de Torres, the first European who discovered the use of tobacco. See, he mentioned tobacco slavery. All right. Was also the first person of the Jewish stock who settled in Cuba. He won favor of the ruler of the Kaki. I think that means a chief. All right. And received from him presents, not merely lands, but also slaves, 5 adults and a child. The king and queen of Spain granted him a yearly allowance of 8,645 maravedis. I guess that was Spanish money back then. And he died in the newly discovered land. All right. Columbus found natives who had their own kakis and their own language and traditions, but they didn't tell you that that language was a Semitic language, which was actually connected to the ancient Paleo-Hebrew. They left that part out when they wrote this book. This book was written by a convert Jew, Meir K. Right? So he knew that these people were the real Israelites, the real people of the Lord. All right. To what race did these Aborigines in Americas belong? Several writers have asserted and have displayed much learning in attempting to prove that the Aborigines were descendants of the Jews. All right. And it says, this result was reached already in the 16th century by Spanish clergyman Rodman, Rodman is one of my sources. His arguments were derived from an unpublished manuscript which he discovered in the library in San Pablo in Seville, Matosinhos, and possessed the manuscripts of Luis Lopez, and learned Bishop of Quito was convinced that the Peruvians were of the Jewish origin. All right, they were the Israelite origin. See, they keep using that word Jewish. Jewish are basically the Edomites who converted to Judaism. All right. It says the view of Roman and Gregorio Garcia, the Aboriginals of America were descendants of Jews. All right, was maintained with many arguments in the same year, 1650, independently by Englishman Thorogood, he's also one of my sources, and by Portuguese Jew Manasseh ben Israel, the renowned rabbi of Amsterdam, who induced Cromwell to allow the Jews to return to England. Seeing Cromwell was the one who got rid of all the Israelites out of Ireland, Scotland, and Britain, out of England. Okay, remember that. A Portuguese Moreno. Now Moreno, you look up the definition of Moreno, it tells you there's a Negro, a Jew, or a Moor, because those cryptos Jews, those Moriscos, all right, which many of them were race traders because they actually helped oppress and take their own people into captivity, working with Esau, Edom. And a lot of them refer to themselves as Moorish today. All right. It says Portuguese Moreno of Villafort, who strange to say also called himself Montesinos, and afterwards assumed the name of Aaron Levi, informed Manasseh that he had mingled in South America with Jews of the 10 tribes. See? And so, and where will we find that out? In the Apocrypha. All right? And second Ezra 13 and 40. So that's where they came from. It gives you how they left the so-called Middle East, sailed around down out into the Arabian Ocean, down around the Horn of Africa, over into the Americas. It explains that. All right. But it says Manasseh's book attracted much attention and was translated into Latin, Spanish, Dutch, English, Italian, and Hebrew, nor has it ceased even to this present day. So there's been many books written. As a matter of fact, a lot of, and at the bottom of this book, the pages of these books, they show you the resources. If I can get it to focus, they show you there it is. The resources of this information. This is what I love about those books, where they came from. All right. So yeah, everything that I'm reading is showing you the resources of where they came from, and they're all from the 1600s. All right. This treatise of the origin of the Americans was reprinted 12 years ago by Spaniard Santiago Perez Junquera. The descendants of the Americans is, in fact, a question which has often been discussed since the discovery of America down to present day. Even in recent times, the Englishman Lord Kingsborough, also one of my sources, devoted his time, his attainments, and greater part of his large fortune to the publication of a collection of American documents in order to prove the Jewish origins of the Americans. So they even put this in movies. All right, in that movie with Jane Fonda when she was young, I think it was called Kathmandu or something like that. They have that scene where the rancher is telling the Gadite, the Cherokee dude, that he's an Israelite. All right, and the Cherokee is denying it, saying, "No, I'm a Cherokee." All right, but nevertheless, it just goes to show you they put this stuff in your face, man. In many movies, there was also a scene, I think, with the what's his name? He used to be one of my favorite actors until I learned he was connected to all that pedophilia shit. With Barry, it was Barry Pepper and a dude who played the cripple in the movie. Damn, he's a damn good actor too. He played the cripple in the movie Usual Suspects. You know, the whole kinds of source they seen where they talk. Shalom, call haloi, how about Shem Shai, about Shem Kakadash, double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, and to the Aquath that are listening and learning, and to the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, the Israelite foreigners. Continuing in part 2, they finish up here. And it says, I'll just start at the top again. The descent of the Americans is, in fact, a question which has often been discussed since the discovery of America down to the present day. Even in recent times, the Englishman Lord Kingsborough devoted his time, his attainments, to the greater part of his large fortune to a publication of collection of American documents in order to prove the Jewish origin of the Americas. I would love to get my hands on those. It is not improbable that the Jews who are driven from Nineveh by Salmanasseh wandered into the inhabited regions, and that case is given you in the Apocrypha. All right, now I'll read that. And it says, according to Herrera, the Indians cherished the traditions of the Yucatan, been settled by the tribes from the Orient. See, they said that they were from the East. That's all Orient means. Several writers gave the exact route which they traveled until they settled in Cuba. Lord Kingsborough asserted that they crossed the Bering Straits, which was a lie, and proceeded to Mexico and Peru. All right, that was the lie that they tried to tell, but they didn't come. They came by way of sea, and it's in there's no one there. There's no way you can get the Americas will fill with hundreds of millions of people, you know, between the Americas and the islands. They wouldn't have survived the cold. There was no food, nothing for them to hunt, and there's no bodies, no bones, no nothing, you know, to support that Bering Strait theory. All right, that was all a lie. Okay, continuing, it says, Rodman's chief argument in support of his view is the language of the Indians, Hispaniola, Jamaica, and the adjoining islands. He contends that it resembles the Hebrew. In fact, he called it corrupted Hebrew. He asserts such names as Cuba, Haiti are Hebrew, and that they first applied by the earliest Kakis or chief, or Kakwis, the chiefs or leaders, Kassin, who discovered the people's islands, and names and rivers and persons among the natives are derived of Hebrew. he explains hyena from the Hebrew, Ain Stram Yones from Jonah, Yaki from Jacob, Urias from Urias, Sabo from Sabah, Masai from Mayasi, names of tools of their little canoes, and for Kansas, the name Axi for pepper, the name of the storehouse, maize for grain, and like to point to the Hebrew language, their rites and ceremonies, as well as their language. From the main argument in favor of theory or dissent, circumcision prevailed among the Indians. They often bathed in rivers and streams. And it says they refrained from touching the dead, from tasting blood. They had definite fast days. Marriage with sister-in-laws were permitted if they were childless widows. Wives were discarded for new helpmates. See, look, man. They also sacrificed first fruits on the high mountains under the shady trees in the temples, and carried away the holy ark before them in time of war. And they were also, like the 10 tribes, included idol worship. And in the video, he goes into that. All the sacrifices that they were making, like when they showed you in that movie Apocalypto, that was them being wicked again and going back to those things that they had learned among the heathen. Those blood sacrifices when they were sacrificing children and drinking that blood, that adrenochrome crap, which is prevalent here in Babylon today among the elites and around the world. All right. All the writers and travelers agree, moreover, that there were many Jewish types face among the Indians and Aboriginals of America. The question whether the American Indians are descendants of Jews, whether they are the offspring of the lost 10 tribes, has often been answered in both affirmative and negative. But the thing is that they just want to disregard the evidence, and that's what Esau does. Never mind that the sky is blue, that you're looking at blue is still green, according to them. But we'll go back to that video and play that clip again. And see, and that's what you get, Esau Edom, for messing with the video, because now you get to hear him twice and not just once. Say, give up the goods, the information. So let's take it back to right around.
That's it. We're from Arabia. Okay. And you mentioned the indigenous language of the Aztecs or the Mayans? Both of them. You said it was connected to an old Hebrew,
ancient Paleo-Hebrew.
So does that mean that language that was indigenous to what Mexico and Central America is today was a Semitic language?
Yeah. So what the schools teach you is an indoctrination. You get inducted into this indoctrination of what they want to call you or what they tell you that you are. So, for instance, our people get called Hispanic, right? So Hispanic, not knowing what that term means, we call each other Hispanics, but that was under the Spaniard captivity. When the Spaniards came in 1492 and, raped, robbed, and pillaged, the people of Mexico, how they knew you were under that captivity was by calling you an Hispanic, how you belonged to a family of a Spaniard that took you, you worked on their plantation, you were given their last name, like my last name, Ayala. That comes from whatever captivity my family got taken into. Maybe we have to work on fields, whether it was picking